What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com. You know, with a lot of T-Mobile high-end smartphones on the carrier, it can be tough to choose which one to go with. You have the G2, the MyTouch 4G, the recently released Nexus S, the HD7, a lot of high-end smartphones within the past 3 months. How do you decide? You look at our dogfights. That's what you do. Google Nexus S, T-Mobile G2, two high-end devices. This one was released yesterday, December 16th. This one was released a couple of months ago. Both are great devices. This one's HSPA Plus capable. This one's not HSPA Plus capable, but it's a Google Experience device, so you get Android 2.3 or Gingerbread. Which one's the best? Which one has the best feature set? Which one's the most awesome, awesomest, whatever? We'll find out in the dogfight. First, special thanks to our friends at Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with two of these, total of 4 for use on One Paw Bandit giveaway, because really we like to give you stuff. Best Buy Mobile, they provide us with phones so we can give away good stuff to you in our contest. One thing I like about Best Buy Mobile, you walk in to buy these devices, which this one's only available at Best Buy Mobile anyway. You walk in to buy the devices and you don't have to worry about mail-in rebates. You walk out paying the after rebate price. Don't deal with messy paperwork, waiting 8 to 10 weeks. Come on, this is the holidays. We're all stressed out. The less paperwork, the better, and it's at Best Buy Mobile. Enough of that, let's get into the dogfight. Google Nexus S, T-Mobile G2. Let's get it started. Okay, here they are, two of the star devices in the winner lineup of smartphones, and two of the star devices on T-Mobile. The Google Nexus S over here, the T-Mobile G2 over here. $199.99 on contract, also $199 on contract. This isn't actually sold through T-Mobile, it's sold through Best Buy, so you can't really call it a T-Mobile device, but it's optimized for T-Mobile. It has 3G in the 1700 megahertz frequency, or in 1700 megahertz band for T-Mobile 3G. You can get it unlocked for $529, put it on AT&T, but it's not going to run 3G, it's only going to run Edge. T-Mobile G2, on the other hand, $199, as I said, full retail $499.99. So out of the box, if you're buying full retail, this one's about $30 more expensive. So, you know, that's that when it comes to pricing. 1 gigahertz processor, 4-inch Super AMOLED display, absolutely gorgeous Super AMOLED display. 5 megapixel camera with a flash, front-facing camera, and best of all, it's running Android 2.3 or Gingerbread out of the box. T-Mobile G2 over here, 800 megahertz next generation Snapdragon processor. So you may hear that and say, it's not a 1 gigahertz processor. It's obviously, you know, going to pale in comparison. Not the case. It's a next generation Snapdragon processor, so it's very speedy. No problems there. 3.7-inch display, 5 megapixel back or camera in the rear, no front-facing camera, and it's running Android 2.2 out of the box. This is a pretty unique dogfight because, for the most part, barring some minor T-Mobile stuff on this, they're almost stock builds. This is a stock build of Android 2.3. This is an almost stock build of Android 2.2. So, you know, it's definitely an apples-to-apples comparison. So on the hardware front, there's some minor differences. You know, first and foremost, the G2 has a physical QWERTY keyboard, and it's a fantastic physical QWERTY at that. So major difference there, and it sports HTC's Z-hinge, as you can see. It doesn't just slide up and slide down, it slides up and over. So a new design for HTC. The physical QWERTY, great for those that send emails on a regular basis, a lot of text messages, and need some sort of physical alternative to the on-screen keyboard. The Nexus S is just a candy bar device, a slab candy bar device with a big touchscreen, but there's no physical keyboard on this. And it actually supports, or actually comes with, Samsung's curved display. You can see the display itself's not curved, but plastic around the display is curved. You know, and Samsung, according to the Nexus website, that's to make it more contoured, easier to hold to your face, more ergonomic when you're on a phone call. And I'll tell you from the review, you know, from working with this device for 4 or 5 days, it really does. When you're on a call for more than about 30 minutes, it doesn't look major, but you can see, you know, there's definitely a curve. Little hump in the back. You have your volume rocker on the left side, power button on the right, micro USB charging port, and 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on the bottom, and a 1500 milliamp battery in the back. On this one, volume rocker, or battery door latch, I'll show you that in a second. Camera shortcut button, volume rocker on the left, micro USB charging port, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and power. Now the cool thing about the battery door, this is a metal battery door, and when you pop this, battery door pops off. So for those people that have issues getting the battery out, that's the way to go, because the battery door is much better on this device. Not to say that it's bad on the Nexus S, but definitely this one's better. 1300 milliamp battery in this one, so it is a little bit under the 1500. We'll talk about that later in the video, but I've been pretty pleased with both on the battery front. Now, as I said, this one's running Android 2.3, this one's running Android 2.2, so you'd imagine that there will be some pretty major software changes. Not the case. 2.3 is really a minor revision of Android 2.2, and you'll notice out of the gate a couple of things, like for example, the notification bar up at the top of these two devices. This is the older Android notification bar. Here, and you can see it's kind of the drab gray T-Mobile, drab gray all across the board. You'll notice with this one, it's a bit more colorful. Put those up so you can see. A little bit more colorful, darker gray, different shade of gray here, and then black in the background. And it works well on both fronts because this is a Super AMOLED display, so with a Super AMOLED display, the darker the colors, the better it is for battery life long term. So, it works out well on this device. Other changes, again, very cosmetic. You'll notice the docks. There's the green accents in Android 2.3 versus the kind of gray accents here on Android 2.2. You'll notice we open up the the menu here to get these extra features. You can see it's black in the background versus the gray again. So the color scheme's changed a little bit, but orange and black seems to be the scheme on this one. Kind of a gray and black is the scheme on this one. You'll notice when you scroll up or you scroll down, there's this new feature on 2.3 where you see the little orange highlighting to let you know that you've reached the top or reached the bottom. Now that's, across the board, that's really what you see on 2.3. A lot of minor revisions like that. Now, one of the bigger changes comes in the messaging application. It comes in the form of a new Android keyboard. You can see here, Android 2.3 keyboard, brand new versus the stock Android 2.2 keyboard and past versions as well, which you remember and from all of the devices of the past. Now, these keys are tall and narrow. These keys are short and fat. You can kind of see in a direct comparison here. It's noticeable. I mean, it's, you may think, oh, they're just a little bit smaller, but for somebody that has large hands or large fingers, it's noticeable. I pulled this out of the box and I was having trouble typing. I was misspelling several words, missing keys, things of that nature. So there are some great alternatives in the Android market if you're looking for a keyboard replacement. And that said, I put a couple on this device actually. We'll go to input method. I put on Smart Keyboard Pro and SwiftKey, which SwiftKey is improved. You can see it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing than what it used to be if you're familiar with SwiftKey. But anyway, let's take a look at the Android keyboard because I'll type on it. Talk about our adventures with the brown fox, the quick brown fox. The quick brown fox has a lot of friends. So you can see, again, I'm typing pretty quickly here on the camera, but you can see that a couple more mistakes than usual, whereas when I type it on this one, lot of friends, you can see less mistakes. For me, this type of keyboard, the multi-touch, the Motorola multi-touch keyboard that's found in the Droid X and the Droid 2, those tall and narrow keys, the taller and the more narrow they are, the better it is. For me, it may be different for you, but for me, I prefer the older Android keyboard much better. Both of these work in landscape mode, and I forgot that I have landscape mode turned off in this one, but both work in landscape mode, and then the added benefit to the G2, excuse me, is that it has the physical QWERTY keyboard. One of the best QWERTY keyboards I've ever seen on a device. Very easy to type on. Keys are spaced pretty evenly. And you can see it has the T-Mobile quick keys, which if you watch the reviews or watched any of the videos of the G2, those are quick keys. I can click one, I can assign it to a program, a shortcut, a contact, whatever. We'll do settings, for example, battery use. So now when I go to quick key number 1, bam, it takes me right into that. Pretty cool there, and there's a widget on the home screen as well. You can put that on the home screen so you don't have to open the keyboard every time that you want to access those. Optical trackpad at the bottom as well. So some minor changes, but on the keyboard front, I have to give it to the Android or the T-Mobile G2, excuse me, because on the keyboard front it does offer a better, in my opinion, better physical QWERTY and a better virtual QWERTY as well. But then the Gmail application works with, is across the board. It's the standard Gmail application. There's no differentiation between Android 2.2 and 2.3. You can download it in the Android market, and it works on both platforms. Now the benefit to the revised version of Gmail is 2.3.2, I believe. Are a couple minor things. For example, you can select the inbox here, and then you can go over here and select, if you have more than one Gmail account, you can select which one you want to access. So that's a nice touch. But then, in the typical stuff we've covered in past videos where when you scroll up and you scroll down, the header stays at the top. So that's a nice touch. Nice that carried over. Now the big benefit comes when you're replying to an email. So let's reply to this one, and you'll notice that up here at the top it's a big reply button, a big send button, and a big save button. So it's kind of more of a web-based interface, if you will. You know, big buttons, easy to see, and you know, it is an improvement over the old version of, or the older version of Gmail. Let's talk a little bit about the widgets on each one of these devices. Because they're stock for the most part, the widget's pretty similar across the board. You see the analog clock here, battery life, which is a widget I've installed, but calendar, Facebook, Google search. You know, you see finance for programs that are installed on this side of the box that are not on the Nexus S. But otherwise, pretty similar. Both have the Google Voice, the new Google Voice widgets, market music, things of that nature, power control, and then, of course, some specialized programs. Now, the big widget difference here, the only widget difference really, is the Quick Keys widget on the G2. You can see that, remember we set the Quick Keys earlier in the video. I can click that number 1 and it routes me right to battery life or battery information. So it's a nice touch, and you know, if you have it on the keyboard, or if you, you know, instead of pulling out the keyboard, you can access it from the screen. So definitely a cool touch there. Now the power, you know, little things change from 2.2 to 2.3. Things like the power control. For example, we'll click power control, get it on there. You can see that this power control is different than, I guess I don't have it on the screen. Let's pull it up here. Then this power control slightly, and little icons like the GPS icon have changed in Android 2.3 versus 2.2. So it's a nice touch. You can see, you know, Bluetooth, a little bit different in terms of design, GPS, some of the brightness, syncing, some of those things have changed. But otherwise, you know, it's a mostly cosmetic change on Android 2.3 versus 2.2. Now you can see, I didn't point this out earlier, but you can see the buttons on the Nexus S are different than the G2. They're in a different order. And you know, you have back, menu, search, and home here, whereas you have home, menu, back, and search on this one. So it's one of those things, you know, they change from Android device to Android device. I don't know if they're going to ever standardize those, but if they do, you know, this is the first one with Android 2.3, so the thought would be that this is where it's going in the future, but you know, who really knows? Excuse me. So both of these have the news and weather widgets. That's a nice touch, and that's it on the widget front for the most part. Now let's take a look at the cameras on each one of these devices. Both have 5-megapixel cameras. You know, and I'm going to spoil it a little bit, but I have to give it to the Nexus S. Usually I say that after the test, but I'm going to spoil it a little bit this time. And both have, as you can see, the stock Android, the camera application. You know, most of them have like Sense and Moto Blur have their own custom camera applications, but these have the stock one. So let's take an individual picture with each one of these of my cracked iPhone 4 screen. We'll bring that up, take that picture. Makes me sad. Now, one place I will give the G2 credit, that I do have to deduct points on Samsung. There's no physical camera button on the Nexus S, and I mean, it's not a huge deal if you have non-shaky hands. But for somebody like me that holds it one, you know, with one hand, or taking a picture on the fly, it's kind of hard to keep that hand steady, and it results in blurry pictures a lot of the time. So that's a frustration. Whereas with this one, you know, you do have the physical button. You can half press it to zoom, and then you can full press to take a picture. But you know, it's a close call because both are 5-megapixel cameras. But I have to say the image quality on the Nexus S is slightly better. Now that said, this shoots 720p video. The Nexus S does not. Now it's, you know, widely expected that it's going to come in a future software update on the Nexus S. But you know, as of now, at least out of the box, if you want 720p video, well, you should stop watching this because the G2 is the only one of the two that has 720p right now.